Hey guys, here with another Road to Masters. We are starting in Gold 3 right now, and yeah, I think this is approximately like Emerald for end of season, roughly, and I think my MMR might be a bit higher, so we're probably around Emerald on average, but if you're following along with me roughly at the same time, if you're in Gold, this is a pretty good metric. If you're Emerald, this is also pretty good. So I've made videos before, and I want to concentrate my topics a bit more, and specifically this game, I want to talk about making my strongest board. So we're really going to talk through the early game. I think in terms of talking about strongest board, first thing that we need to do is make sure that we know what the options are. So we need to check the Psionic and the Stargazer because Jax is really good, but we do need to figure out other things outside of that. So I think when we think about strongest board, we need to think about a mix of frontline and backline, and we need to think about where does our mid-game board go. We need to be thinking about a lot of things, but the first thing is frontline, backline, and the next thing is where does our board want to go into the future. If we assume Huntress is not super playable, I think you could toss away the Jax, but they're arguably one of my best front lines, but we do need to keep the rogue possibilities in as well, right? Rogue is really important, and we need to pick up pairs. So as soon as I pick up this Rek'Sai pair, a next logical thing is to pick up Cho'Gath because they are a brawler, right? So this can be my starting board. That's really, really, really important. And I know people think Briar or Talon might be tanks. They're not tanks. They're not frontline. They're damage dealers. Just because they're melee damage dealers doesn't make them damage any less of a damage dealer, right? So again here, another thing to consider is matching up our items with our pairings here. We're pretty flexible, but we had 80 items before, so now we need to think about like fitting in 80 items. And now once I get a rod, I need to think about something different, because right now we need to make a slam here. What is our best slam here? Maybe Gunblade is our best slam here. We can think about a lot of these, and if we're playing strongest board, I think Warpath does make a ton of sense. If we are playing strongest board, it gives me a 2 cost. I'm not close to a strong board, but I'm looking around, I'm scouting. I'm not seeing anyone particularly strong, so I'm going to be a little greedy. And this will also teach us how to play strongest board here. I think that's the most important thing, is how to play strongest board. So we need to level for a front line, and we don't have any challenger right now. So this is a bit concerning for me. The thing that we want to think about is how do I play around my 2 costs? How do I play around my carries? And I think an immediate thing that you want to think about is activating their traits. So my Rek'Sai is my frontline tank, my frontline carry, and my Jinx is my backline carry. Nothing is going to be better than Jinx 2 for a very, very, very long time. I think people get it kind of twisted here. What's better than a Jinx 2? Maybe like a 2-star 3 cost, or like a side grade would be like Gnar 2 or something like that. And I have decent items for her as well. I can make Gunblade, I can make IE Rageblade. We're gonna wait to slam. Also with strongest board, you can play your strongest board now, but there's no reason to be like kill your opponent and bash their head in, right? There's actually no reason. Now, I think there is an argument here to this being stronger board right now, but we do need to have a future. I think this actually does make quite a bit of sense, actually. This does make quite a bit of sense. And if I want to be as strong as possible now, we would double sell here. Which I'm honestly considering doing just to jam in the rogue, my next best unit. So we did say this was going to be strong for a very, very long time. I'm going to slam here. This was going to be strong for a very, very long time, but you know, I do need to play strongest board now. So you kind of need to match that up. Obviously with Warpath, my urgency is very, very high to win every single round. I think there's a concept for me called urgency, which is really important. Like, how important is this next round? With Warpath, my next round is very important. If I didn't have Warpath, I would really think Jinx is going to be stronger for a long time. But here, with urgency, with the idea of urgency, I really need to be as strong as possible now. Rogue makes me stronger. If I had a challenger, I'm pretty sure I would drop out of that and just play 2 challenger there. The best challenger being Bel'Veth, and I think that would be a fantastic board, and that would carry me a long time. We were talking about Gunblade versus Rageblade. With Rogue, my strongest board, you always have to take into consider your traits, right? So I need to put in Darkstar to activate my Kai'Sa. That's not even that important, but 3 Rogue gives me 25 AD, 25 AP. And what's really good when we have a bunch of base damage on an AD caster, it's going to be mana regeneration, and it's going to be crit, the ability to crit. So this Kai'Sa is going to be strong on my board for a very long time. Like we said, a very, very long time, these things are going to be strong. So we just want to make our strongest board for a long time, but we also need to think about where our future is headed. I don't know where IE is headed in our future exactly. We probably need to think about it. But at the worst case, all this locks us into is I'm playing some AD comp here. That's all that it locks me into. So Tiny Dupes could be making me the strongest board by giving me a Briar, but this GS is really, really enticing as well. This gives me a slam now. So I would imagine that slamming a GS on my Kaisa right now, or slamming a Gunblade if you want right now, would be a lot stronger. So that's what we're thinking about when we're playing strongest board. And you play strongest board to streak, and you play strongest board in this case because I have Warpath, so I have the high amount of urgency to like really win every single round here. And you can get Briar upgrades in other ways as well, or you can get Briar 2 just by naturaling it as well. So here I think we can make GS. GS is literally, I think, never bad to make. I think Gunblade is maybe better item economy, and Rageblade we could be thinking about a future, but I don't really care about my future. I just want to make my strongest board now so I can cash out my Warpath. So to me, that's going to be GS Kaisa here. You could think about Rageblade and think about the future, but I would just be very, very worried about the future if I can't win these rounds now. Rageblade, you guys might be thinking, oh, that's really good on Kaisa. Kaisa's a caster. She doesn't want to attack quickly. What she wants to do is when she casts, she wants to do a lot of damage, and that's what GS will do. Rageblade will just make me auto attack faster. She's not a marksman, so I think people get it confused and like, oh, these items are really general. That stuff, it's not general. It's you know, it's pretty clear. It's not in her suggested items. If you don't know the roles and stuff, just look at the suggested items. They're not too bad. The only truly bad item here, I would say, is like Hodge, Hand of Justice. But other than that, you know, it's pretty good. So we get a Gwen 2, and now we're like maybe kicking ourselves for maybe not slamming Gunblade and stuff like that. But in my opinion, we had to slam what we had to slam at the time, right? I would say this is pretty high roll. We've naturaled all our upgrades, so this is an exceptional Warpath game. But you know, you make your luck. I'm holding the Rogues because this was my strongest path, and I was close to Briar Pair on 2-1. You make your high rolls truly and honestly in this game. As soon as you start holding one of the right units, the chance that you high roll is very, very high, right? I don't know, we might get out capped here unless I start thinking about a good comp to play, but again, all I need to do right now is just think about IE being locking me into AD. That's the only thing that I'm locked into in this entire game, is that I must play some sort of AD unit. Ideally some AD caster. So if we're thinking really, really later into the game, I'm thinking about like Graves and stuff like that, but not a big deal. Fiora can use it, Jin can use it. Yeah, those would be the main ones. And then we could also think about any 4-cost ones like Corki and stuff like that. I believe we cannot make Econ. We cannot. We're at 19. No problem. 19 gold is not a problem because we're making 3 gold a turn, and we're about to make 4 gold a turn. I think people get this also confused. We're going to make 4 gold next turn. We're going to get 3 for streaking, getting into the 6+ part of this streak, and then we're going to get 1 for winning the round. So it's about the money you make in TFT. It's not about the money sitting in here. I can pump all my money, and that's just money being used, but now I'm not going to make interest. Interest is just one way you make money in TFT. It is not the sole way you make money in TFT. If you're ready to actually start climbing, head over to tftgameplan.com. dpei's Disciples is my monthly coaching membership, and it gives you full access to my daily meta reads, weekly live Q&As, personalized feedback with unlimited spot reviews, and full access to my library of past coaching sessions, all for $15 a month. One-on-one coaching is also available if you want to improve even faster. Links are in the description below. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Lots of interesting options here. So I see Crown Guard. I could make Rageblade and make 3-item Kaisa now, but I think Crown Guard is going to be better overall for my item economy. And here I can level for Rogue to be stronger now, but something really important is Scouting. Scouting is really, really important. All these people are level 4. I'm not really too concerned, so I don't even need to slam the Crown Guard if I need to. I'm not forced to ever level, so I think this saves me a gold or 2, right? If I were to level here and do the math that I just talked about, of course I would level here if it makes a difference, but here we just can't be afraid of these people who are, you know, level 4 and don't really have any items slammed. Leona is quite scary. I might just slam this. Oh, it's a Leona one. Sorry. Miss-saw. I miss-scouted and miss-saw in the thing. No problem. I think Crown Guard's there most of the time, but you never need to slam. You never need to slam, and if you're not a good fight judger, I'm a terrible fight judger. It's better to err on the side of caution here, but you see we saved 2 gold here. We would have dipped to 29 if we leveled here, and the level would be worth it, just to be clear. In most cases, you lose 2 gold, but you could gain up to 4 gold, and you could gain up to 4 gold on this round, on this round, on this round, on this round, right? So it's really worth it. But if I don't need to level based off my matchups, you don't need to do that. So scouting is really important for strength too. You don't need to be strongest, you need to be stronger than your opponent. I'm not interested in luxury subscription. It's a bit too slow. Soul's Awakening is just underpowered for me. And also we really need items. I'm really keen on this one, to be honest. Baron's Lair is also very good right now. Very good later on. We're not going to do Trade Tree. I know people are very allergic to Trade Tree. I think I would take Trade Tree here in tournament every single time. But I know people are very, not in tournament, in my own game. I think this makes sense and this makes sense. I love dpei Bis, and I have Gwen to itemize here, so I'm quite happy. This would also be acceptable as well, but blue buff is pretty crazy on my board, I would say. So I'm quite keen on that. We're going to put my best items on my best unit here, and I think, you know, just going based off what I know of TFT, I'm not positioned correctly here. Based off what I know about TFT, 6 gold is more than 3 gold. So, and I'm going to give Gwen all my reasonable items. Obviously, you shouldn't give an AP user IE here, so we're going to keep Kaisa over there. And we have a champ dupe. We have 2 champ dupes. So in theory, my strongest board actually here is blue buff GS IE Kaisa 2, and then I use the greater Nico. So we could actually do that, and that would be absolute strongest board. Let's see if we need to do that. I didn't have enough time to scout, but that actually is a complete and legitimate option, I think, especially with Warpath, where we're getting power later. How strong do we need to be? You know what? I think we beat this person, but at the same time, I don't like being cocky. I don't know. I'm kind of afraid. I'm really urgent about it. So I'm just going to do this and this right now. I'm just going to do this and this right now. I think it's pretty reasonable, you know, like I'm not exactly sure at the end of the day. I'm not exactly sure. And I think leveling here would be pretty reasonable if I had an in, like if I kept that Ross from earlier, or if there was another rogue to play in my shop. Oh, hey, there is. I could have leveled here, and I think that would have been an alternative. So there's a lot of ways to make my board stronger here. As we can see, we can switch around my items, we can move it around, but as soon as I'm playing around one thing, we need to like play around it, right? So I hit a Gwen 2, I need to play around it. I hit a Kaisa 2, now we need to play around that, right? You can also level to be stronger if you don't want to slam items, or if you don't want to jam a dupe, but you think you can be stronger than the second strongest in the lobby. That's really important too. I think here, again, item components are really good. We could make a Shiv for my Gwen. That could make sense, but this is 2 components. This is pretty good. And Gargoyles with Crown Guard makes a lot of sense. We're already wanting to solo frontline it a bit. So I think this makes sense. So I think something really natural would be to ask, like, what are we playing, David? I have no idea what we're doing now. I think we can't think too far ahead, so we're gonna level here. It's pretty cheap and pretty good, and we're gonna backline everything to probably Gargoyles here. Yeah, I think we're gonna Gargoyles here, and the level is too cheap. As you can see, it cost me 1 interest to add 5 rogue onto my board, which gives both of my carries 15 more AD, 15 more AP, which is just, you know, fantastic. We're gonna slam Gargoyle here, just because, you know, 90% of the time I think it's gonna be Gargoyle, and we really have no other slam. Kraken wouldn't make any sense to slam onto this guy, and we need a balance of frontline and backline. We've always needed a balance of frontline and backline, right? That's why we made the Crown Guard in the first place instead of making Rageblade Kaisa. Balance matters a lot. So it looks like we're going to cash out the Warpath next turn. Obviously, I'm a bit more skilled than the people in my elo right now, but hopefully you guys see that nothing here was super crazy. Maybe duping the Kaisa in everyone's mind was a bit crazy, and I think maybe it's a bit crazy, you know, but I want to note that, you know, that is a way to be strongest right now. All you need to do with Warpath is just think about a normal comp that you would play, and you need to consider your Warpath. So what is a normal comp we can play? Like, what is a comp that we are fairly familiar with that we could play? We could just do Corky Riven, you know? I don't even know what I have on here, but we could just do Corky Riven, and that's a pretty reasonable comp. It's a level A comp. It doesn't get me too confused. It's a comp maybe I'm comfortable with or understand, and that could be an option. I think if you want to play creatively, this is another, you know, you could do a bunch of different things from this spot, but we'd end up probably in some Fast 9 shell is where I'm at, some variation of a Fast 9 shell, and play around a bunch of good legendaries. That's also a possibility with Warpath. So we'll see what we get. Maybe it will be like, my default plan is this. Sorry, I have to put things in my planner. I don't have the Viz, and I'm gonna add Rost onto here. Maybe I don't know all the comps, but just fit it into a comp that you do know, right? At the end of the day, that's kind of the most important thing. Wow. I mean, I'm gonna play this 2-star. Do we have any Bastion to play? Great, that sounds good. Maybe we want to get this guy cooking in here. That sounds pretty good. How much do we need to be in Rogue? I'm not really sure. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of good things. I don't think I'm going to be playing a Talon 1 on my board anytime soon. We could be thinking about the Fast 9 comp. We got a lot of interesting options here. So there's about a million ways this game could go, truly and honestly. We have a lot of choices here. We truly have a lot of choices here. I think we could even play Meeple here, would be pretty reasonable, but this Grave sounds really quite enticing to play around this early into the game. I want to play backline Graves. I don't really have melee items for them, but I could get melee items for them, but I think backline Graves makes sense with the Kaisa that I have. Again, the level is super cheap. And you know what? You know, Rost doesn't have too much value on my current board. Let's make some... I think you should pop the big anvils first, but I'm going to be lazy here and figure it out later while I talk through this. So we have a lot of options. We could play the Corky Meeple comp. We could play around Fast 9. There's a lot of things here, but the only thing that I knew right now on this turn is that I want to play Meeple and Bastion for my Rammus, and that's exactly what I got in there, right? And we're still playing around Kaisa right now, and we're stacking up our Graves. So nothing crazy here, right, on this turn. So we've just iteratively made our board, and we can play some flex TFT here as well. We don't have to go into a defined board. Maybe I can just try to like talk you through a flex process here. I think we have a bunch of items. Items don't really make sense at all. I think combat would make a ton of sense. So Glass Cannon, I'm already playing backline Graves. I have some backline units here. I don't really have melee items, so I'm quite keen on Glass Cannon. Little buddies, I don't really know how often I'm going to be playing 1 or 2 costs. Like, I'm not that keen, and 25% damage amp is kind of crazy high. And I think this is just the best combat. This is 12 seconds in the fight, get 35% damage amp. I'd rather get 25 from right off the start here. I believe the build with this Graves is just as much mana as possible. Wow. As much mana as possible, so I'm just gonna keep getting blue buffs. Am I crazy? I just want him to cast as quickly as possible here. Are we playing around AP at all? Maybe we want to play around Vex instead. So now we're sacrificing our strongest board for our future. At some point, you do have to think about your future. So you know, you can't be strong at every single point in the game. I think people think that they need to be strongest now all the time. Once I cash out my Warpath, I do need to think about my future. And if I was trying to play around some 5-cost soupy type thing, I'd really need to think about my future. My future is telling me, David, we really want to play around like the Fast 9 package. So this guy gives us both form of Shred. Aatrox gives us both form of Shred, and this guy gives us the ability to crit. We might not need this girl specifically, but we definitely want Aatrox in there, and that really goes with Bastion quite well, right? I would even argue that this could be a reasonably strong board, all things considered. The only thing I know is I'm scaling out my Graves, and I have good backline items. I have a lot of blue buffs, so we'll have to figure that out just a bit. But the good news is every user can use blue buff, so I'm just going to put this planner on. We somehow ended up playing Fast 9 anyways, but you can see that we're playing it pretty iteratively as we're going through, right? We're just playing really logical TFT with good frontline, good backline, and the only time we started thinking a bit more about the future is with Gwen here, right? Other than that, we've been playing very, very slowly and iteratively, just building what makes sense on my current board based off my traits, based off my units, and all that stuff. full TG sounds really good. I have a bunch of items. I already have Kale Blessing, but full TG sounds really good. All these 5 costs requires a bunch of TGs. TG Blitz sounds really good, and TG Shen sounds good, and TG is good on my board right now. So pretty simple decision here. I don't need to gamble on any 4 costs because that's not my end. My end goal is not to end on a 2-star 4 cost. My goal at this point is to be on a 2-star 5 cost, right? As good hygiene, we should probably always check this. It's an offensive item. Probably can put this on Briar or Fizz. Either is fine. This would be pretty reasonable for me. We could do this, but I'm lacking frontline on my board, and we should probably check around to see if there's anything crazy going on in the lobby. I believe there was a late game scaling player, so maybe we need to think about them playing into Vex or something like that. Yeah, we'll see, but I have enough money and I have a bunch of alternatives. Maybe Rageblade locks me into specifically Vex here, so that could be a mistake if I was really contested Vex or something like that, but I feel fairly confident on my 14 streak board that we're going to have enough gold. So we have at no point taken Econ in this game, I just really want to note, and we're still really, really rich. We're still really, really rich, right? I believe I was just going as much mana as possible because I was told that this is pretty good, and double blue buff sounds really good with that as well. So we could even think about playing Corki and all this stuff, but like you could think about this as an alternative board, I guess, but I'm pretty happy with the upgraded rogues. And for simplicity, maybe, because we are eventually going to roll down, we're going to think about that. So we could play around this Rammus 2 long term. This goes into a bit of knowledge into like, do you want to play this line or not? Let's try to keep the meeples and stuff like that. It's hard to want to keep all the meeples in just because the other traits don't fit too well, in my opinion. If I'm trying to play around Graves, if I'm trying to play around Vex, really you want to buff up your carries as much as possible. And Rammus is a good carry. He's a really, really good tank, but really only when he has meeple in. So maybe we could have thought about the Corki and thinking about that long term. That could be a plan. I just know I want to end up on 2-star 5 costs a lot of the time. So we can keep the Rammus, but then maybe Shen will have to go, or maybe we can't play either of these people. But note that all your items have to go to good units. This is another TG. This sounds really good. TG sounds really good here. We talked about urgency before. I actually have very little urgency now. I've had very little urgency for a long time. Since I've cashed out Warpath, I've had very little urgency. We don't need to be strong now. I have a lot of HP to lose here, and I can think about the future. You can think about urgency if we're like really worried about the contest or something like that. That would make us a little more urgent. In fact, I'm feeling a little more urgent looking at this person's board. I'm feeling a little bit more urgent for sure. But I already have a pair of Graves, and if I roll now, I might not have enough gold. So I'm still not super urgent. They have to hit everything in like one turn. For me, I have a lot of gold. I have a lot of items. I can cap out higher because I took Warpath. I have red buff and stuff. I think the main thing I'm missing from my board is Shred. So I really want to play this person. And I guess Akali would make a lot of sense with all the TGs I have running around as well, right? To make use of that precision or the ability to crit, which is what precision is. Yeah. Sorry, I'll hover over what precision gives you, just in case you're not familiar with the naming convention. They changed it with JG and stuff like that, and IE. But this round is not urgent. We might lose it, and you might be thinking, David, you need to keep your streak. You need to do all that stuff. Really, the urgency is very low in this situation, and I need to maximize my gold to hit my board. That is the main thing I need to do. I don't need to win this round. And in fact, if I had 20 gold to roll here, if I don't think I can make significant upgrades to my board, I shouldn't be so urgent. I'm not actually sure what to take here. Crit damage, crit chance. Mana regen seems good with the whole coolant void efficient, right? Just index more into mana and just casting a lot. That sounds really cool to me. Maybe next turn is the turn we'll go all in, and maybe we'll be too late. You know, maybe all my units will be out of the pool. I have some degree in confidence that I can hit the 2 stars regardless, or hit the 1 stars and be fairly strong here. But I can't force myself to hit 2-star Vex on what was it, like 36 gold. I think it's really, really hard to do that. So I think I have a better chance hitting a bit later, but with more gold. And maybe I need to wait for like Dodo Brain to die, or this person to eventually be a little weaker, because they took triple Econ. They might be weak if they don't hit their entire board. So we have very little urgency here. Obviously, we're losing a lot of HP, but 1 HP is all you need to do to win the game if you're the highest cap comp in the game, which I believe that I am. So we're just gonna kind of slowly roll here. Nothing crazy here. Maybe we'll end up being on the fast 9 board. That does seem pretty reasonable given my spot and situation. I'm gonna get rid of this. Nothing's looking crazy here. Divine Duelist. I'm gonna start getting rid of some stuff here. Not sure how to play my strongest board here. At least we have Bastion. We lost our Meeple. We lost our Meeple, but I don't want to get off 2-star Rammus too early here. Honestly, I would normally just full sell here and just try to get a copy of 1 to make my transition easier. But I want to teach you guys how to play strongest board at each turn while also keeping your future. I don't have a Rageblade user yet, so I do want this to be Vex, but you know, this Gwen Kaisa have been my strongest board for a very long time, and they will continue to be my strongest board for a very long time until I start hitting the 2-star 5 cost, which just goes to show you how important duping that Kaisa was, right? Like, if that made the diff, it's a huge diff. So all these players have died at this point. I don't really know what we want item-wise. We do have a 2-star Blitz, which we can think about itemizing, so I'm going to get a Rabadon's. Graves is like negative gold, 15% damage amp against tanks, crit, chance, blast radius, vision is more mana regen. Kind of think this is cool. How does Ross go on the board? I don't know. Ross seems like he wants to go on the board. I think we're finally going to get out of Meeple. I actually don't have a stronger tank right now, so that's a little upsetting. Probably needed to sell. I'm still in the rogues is the crazy part. I'm still in the rogues. We really want to keep a Kali. We might just have to lock this. I think ideally we would have sold the Fizz at this point, and we kind of need to put in Bastion onto my board. So we didn't play strongest board here. Completely my bad. I'm pretty sure I should be open selling for just 1 Vex copy and 1 Morgana copy, but it's okay. Our urgency isn't very high here. I think if I was playing normally, we'd kind of be a lot more urgent. We just need to find 1 Vex. I'm in fact going to sell this and sell this. Looking for just 1 Vex, 1 Morg. Oh, we can't even fit the Morg now that I think about it. So I'm going to put my best items on this guy. We probably need to put real tank items on my units. So I'm going to put the attack speed items on you. I have run out of item slots. That can't be right. We probably need to TG someone else and then give these items to Fiora. Might be the answer. Maybe I have too much mana regen. This Graves is kind of just going crazy, though. We probably shouldn't have sold our Rammus until we had a proper tank, so apologies on that. But you kind of do need to sell at some point to make a slightly weaker board just to, like, make sense of what you have right now. But as you can tell, like, we were pretty close to a strong board. I think we could have won on some, like, even some Meeple board if we wanted to. But I just ended up playing the 5-cost soup board. I don't know if we have the best items here, but yeah, we should probably 3-item a Fiora here and look to TG something else. And we should probably put tank items on our tank unit, which would make a ton of sense to me, is put tank items on a tank unit and then put 80 items over here. And so our IE found a home eventually, and really IE stopped being the most important item on my board. You know, as soon as I tried to get over to this side, it stopped being the most important unit on my board. Don't really know what I'm holding on to at this point. Sure. Every upgrade matters, right? And we'll look for a Fiora item here. I don't see a lot, but why not? And yeah. So my Graves is my main damage dealer here. We don't really need to think about much for positioning, and we'll just watch my Graves go infinite here. I think it'll be pretty fun. I've never played this build myself. We should think about Glass Cannon as well. Sorry, this person should probably be up. But Graves should just kind of be every auto be attacking quite frequently. This Leona is a beast though. But I think I probably have too much damage between all my 5-cost carries. I hope I have enough damage to beat a board like this. They made a really good board, really good board, but it looks like mine just ends up being a bit better in the end. Latent Explosion, store 15% on takedown. I've never even gotten to this part. This seems like it's better. I'm not going crazy, right? So you see how we iteratively have built our board, and we only ended up on this board at the very end. And obviously this is my cap, and I do want to win the game, and I do know the caps. But even if you don't know the caps and we played around Rammus, Corki, I think you would be able to win this game. It might be a bit harder, but you know, once we got the early Graves, I think you'd be playing around Graves, Corki, something like that, and you can play around the Rammus. I just saw a bigger future there, and our urgency wasn't high, so I didn't need to iterate and build the strongest board at each step. I could really just take my time here and decide which comp I wanted to go to. So hopefully you see with strongest board, there's the concept of urgency needing to be as strong as possible now. It's obviously really urgent with Warpath, but also the concept of seeing your future. You need to have a future at some point, and that's what stage 4 was all about for me. And even part of stage 5, I was thinking about what my future could be, and I do know this fast 9 comp. So hopefully you guys get the idea of what the strongest board is and how to play towards it, and what is going to be strong on your board for a very long time. The Gwen and the Kaisa were strong on my board for a very, very, very long time, up until stage 5 even. So we had to play around that, and that's exactly what we did this game to get to the other spot. The items are the only thing that lock you in. Past that, you can play any unit in the game. As you see, none of the units I played in the early game are on my end game board, and that's the beauty of TFT. Thank you guys all for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thank you so much.